nobody gets married thinking someday I'm going to get divorced.
Right.
And I think probably there's a very, very, very small percentage of people, and they're probably drunk in Vegas when they're getting married, who are thinking, well, if it doesn't work out,
Right, sure.
it's all right. We'll just get divorced. Hey, I think we should talk about divorce. I think we should talk about healing after divorce, dating if you choose to. But then if you have children, that's a whole nother, let's call it an adventure, because I don't know what else to call it. That is so complex and complicated. And I think we should delve into that. And I want to say what should be common sense to anyone that knows anything about me. I am not an expert. I only speak from my own experience. I did, in my first book, share a lot about my divorce, leading up to it, and then going through it, and then eventually dating my husband, current husband. I don't like to say current husband because it sounds like he's just current. There might be another one tomorrow. I don't mean it that way. My second and last husband.
Right, there you go.
Introducing him to my children. He even in the first book wrote a part himself about step-parenting because I was like, I don't have experience in this. So hopefully he'll come on eventually and talk about his experiences being a step-parent. And what I noticed after my first book, Hold On But Don't Hold Still, came out is that's actually the part that probably got the most feedback. When I was getting emails and direct Instagram messages after people read the book, it was usually, hey, I'm going through a divorce too, and I needed to hear that. Or, wait, I have even more questions about what you wrote about, dating once you're as a single parent. And I just thought we should talk about it. And I don't think this will be the last time we talk about it because I feel like it's probably going to open, other questions.
And I think if it does open other questions and someone is listening, that they should call in and ask the question.
Yeah, we're actually going to play. We got 2 voicemails specifically on this topic that we will play during the episode. So if you left one of those, stay tuned. But you can always call 855-912-4175 and leave a voicemail. We don't play voicemails during every episode, but if it's relevant and if you can make it concise, because we've gotten a few voicemails that are like 10 minutes long and I would love to play them. We just can't. But we'd love to answer your questions on the podcast. And I always tell people, because sometimes people are like, I'm just too nervous to call. Just write it out because you're not calling in live. Mm-hmm. So write it out and read it. Totally. Anyway, it's one of those topics, honestly, Kat, that I don't even know how to start because there's like so many layers. I guess I'd like to start by saying for anyone that's maybe in a situation right now where they're in an unhealthy marriage and they're wondering what to do and whether to leave. I get that question a lot. Should I leave? I will never tell anyone whether to leave or not, unless they're in a dangerous situation.
Right.
If you are being abused,
yes,
I am begging you to leave.
Or your children are being abused.
Yes. I mean, yes. I'm not just suggesting you leave. I am begging you to leave. I'm begging you to leave. And you mentioned children. A lot of times people will stay in a marriage because of children. So let's say the wife is being abused, but the children aren't. And the wife thinks she can hide it from the children and she's just going to stay for the children. No, please. I know that I'm all about mind your own motherhood, but I don't want to mind my own motherhood when someone's in danger.
Yes.
Please call a friend, call your mom, wherever, move out. You're not a failure. You're not ruining your children's lives. Please leave if you're in a dangerous situation. Okay. For me, I got married, and within the first year of marriage, I knew that this was not a healthy situation, and I was planning on leaving, and he even knew that I was thinking about leaving. And then I think we were in a marriage for a year and a half when I found out I was pregnant with my son. And we're just going to go there, TMI. Because our relationship was unhealthy, we were having sex so infrequently that literally it was a complete shock that I was pregnant. Like it was like, and in fact, this is how infrequent it was. I know the exact date that
Wow.
I conceived Luca.
Wow.
And then my mind immediately went into, and I write in detail in the book how, I was crouched down in my closet on the phone with a friend of mine who was a nurse who actually gave me the blood test for, to check if I was pregnant. And I was crouched out in the closet and just shocked by this news and just filled with every emotion you can. But all of a sudden, all this love for this baby that I didn't even expect or, plan. And my thought was, well, my kid's not going to grow up in a divorce home. I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make this work. And in fact, when I told my ex-husband that I was pregnant, I remember he was sitting in the living room on this recliner, and I went and sat on his lap, which immediately he was like, what's up? We haven't really been affectionate with each other. I sat on his lap and I told him I was pregnant. And this will tell you where our marriage was at the time. His first words were well, what are we going to do? And I said, we're going to make it work. We're going to make it work. And I was so determined. And then when my son was 10 months old, I got pregnant with my daughter, and that was planned because I just figured I was going to stay in this marriage. And our son, once he came, our oldest, our first, he became a distraction. It was like everything became about him, and we didn't even need to think about our problems or our things, right? And so in a way, I was thinking, oh, look, we're doing better because now we have this thing that we're both focused on and we both love. And then when he was 10 months old, I got pregnant with my daughter because I wanted my kids close in age. And when she was a year and a half almost, I left. It just got to a point where here was what I heard that really sort of, I felt like gave me permission to leave. I heard someone say, it's better for a child to come from a broken home than live in a broken home. And I remember so clearly hearing those words and just losing it. Like it was one of those, like, you hear something and you immediately just start sobbing. And because I knew then this is the end. This is the end. And it's so scary. Yeah. It's so scary. So anybody that's trying to make this decision right now, I feel for you, and I just want to hold you and hug you. And nobody should be making, again, unless you're in a dangerous situation, nobody should be making this decision for you. You have to make it on your own. And it's scary. I was so young. I got married at 22, had my first kid by the time he was born, I was 24, my second one at 25, and leaving a marriage at 26. I mean, when I think of 26-year-olds right now, like babies. Yeah. 26 is still a baby. Yes. I mean, our brain's not done developing until our mid-20s. So I don't even know if my brain was done developing. But our prefrontal cortex, to be exact. But it's very scary. So if you're in a situation, you're like, it's too scary. Yeah, it's supposed to be scary. It's not going to be easy. I really have not heard of a situation where it's like just easy. Maybe if you don't have kids, maybe if you have a ton of money, I don't know. But anyway, I left and I made a lot of mistakes. One of the things was I just wanted to leave in peace. I didn't want to have court fights. I didn't want to have drama. I had a lot of people in my life who were very against divorce and felt like I was going to ruin my children's lives if I left, who cut me out. People that were very close to me. So I felt very alone. I ended up, sharing a small bedroom with my kids, having a roommate because I couldn't afford an apartment just for us, and struggling financially and all that. And I don't even know where to go from here. Should we go into the kids first, ego last? Because I feel like...
Sure, if you want to. Yeah, do kids first, ego last, and then we have a couple questions too. So we could do the first question.
Okay. Maybe let's do the first question, because isn't the first question, it's not about exes and co-parenting, right?
No, it's not.
Let's do the first question, and then we'll get into co-parenting.
Sounds good.
Hi, Christina. My name is Mary. I was wondering if you could maybe speak a little bit about your journey of finding healing after your divorce. I'm suddenly now a single mom to 4 boys, and I have to get a job for the first time and be both parents, and it's all just really overwhelming and scary and hard, and I just feel so broken. And so I know that healing looks different for everyone, but I just wondered, like, what did that look like? Or what was that process like for you? And just thank you so, so much for everything you do.
Oh, Mary. Oh man, that breaks my heart because I can't you just hear her sadness?
Yes.
And it just reminds me so much of that time in my life. I feel ya. It is so hard. And you have 4 boys, man. I had half the amount of children. Gosh, healing, it's going to take a while. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not going to be an overnight thing. But, you know, what you were saying is now I suddenly have to get a job. I remember I was a stay-at-home parent before I left. And I share in the book actually how I was trying to figure out, you know, what's the most money I can make quickly. And I figured waiting tables. There are other ways that I didn't want to do.
Right.
But
don't do those.
But yeah, waiting tables. And I Googled most expensive restaurant in the town I lived in at the time. And the first one that came up, I just got dressed and I covered my crying eyes and, you know, with as much concealer as I could. And I went to that restaurant. I printed out a resume, and because I had waited tables back in college, I hadn't worked in a while. And so I went to the restaurant and I was like, hi, I'm here to apply to be a server. And they're like, we're not hiring. And I don't know what got into me, but I was like, well, great. I'll be back tomorrow. And I don't remember. I wrote in the book because I got it from my diary and I can't remember. I think it was 7 times, days in a row. I went back, and finally the last day, the manager was like, okay, you wore me down. I'll give you an interview. And I ended up getting hired. But I tell that story to say, I remember that desperation. Plus I couldn't think clear. Obviously I was very sleep deprived, because otherwise it would have been like, maybe I should apply to 17 places instead of going back to the same one over and over. But there's my stubbornness. But just that desperation of my life has to look completely differently. I don't even know where to start. I have to financially support my kids on my own right now. And I just remember everything just feeling heavy and a lot and confusing and loud. And so I feel for you, Mary. As far as the healing, I'm going to tell you, and this is going to sound maybe cheesy and stupid, but it really was the pivotal thing for me. My healing started when I started treating myself better. Here's the thing. Even if you have the best self-esteem in the world, which, let's be honest, none of us do. We all struggle with insecurities. We all struggle with not liking ourselves. We all struggle with the negative voice, every single person. But even if you're the most confident person in the world, when you go through a divorce, it feels like a failure. Whether you are the one that initiated divorce, whether somebody else initiated it, whether you were left, whether you did the leaving, whatever the reasons were, it feels like a failure. It just does. And we tend to carry that, and it's not fair. And by the way, I no longer believe that divorce is always a failure. In my situation, when I look back on my life now, and it's been 20 years, I think, since I got my divorce, I look at it as a success in the sense of it was the best, healthiest thing for my family. It was not, that decision was not a failure. Okay. But you have to change the way you treat yourself throughout this. And I'm going to make some assumptions, which I know I'm against. I tell you guys not to make assumptions, but I'm going to make some assumptions because I feel it in your voice. I'm going to make the assumption that you are beating yourself up, that you are feeling like you aren't strong enough to face it all. I hear that in your voice and your voicemail. And you might even be comparing who you are now as a person, as a mother, to who you were during the best days of your marriage. And all of that stuff is going to keep you stuck. So I'll tell you a quick story. And it sounds like she's been following my videos for a while. So you may have heard it, but maybe you just need to hear it again. When I was in that dark place after my divorce, I couldn't afford therapy. And a friend of mine told me how, and this is a great tip for everyone, by the way, students who are studying to become licensed therapists, after they finish all of their studies, all of their coursework, in order to actually get licensed, they have to spend a certain amount of time in therapy, like as a therapist, right? Putting in those practical hours. And when they're doing that, they can't charge a full fee. So they either charge a super cheap fee because they're not licensed yet, or sometimes they'll even do it for free. And I found a student who had finished his coursework, and I can't even remember if it was like $10 or something. I can't remember what I paid, but it was really cheap per session. And I even had a friend who like paid for a couple sessions, which was really sweet.
Great.
Anyway, I go to this therapist and I'm telling this therapist how I am the worst mother in the world. I used to be a good mom. But ever since my divorce, I've just deteriorated and I'm a horrible mom. And the therapist said, well, give me some examples. And I said, well, okay, before my divorce, I used to cook really nice meals for my kids. I've always loved cooking. That's always been a passion of mine. And, you know, I used to make sure their meals were at least somewhat nutritious and I put thought into them. And now a lot of days, sometimes like 3, 4, 5 days in a row, I will just take a box of mac and cheese and cook that and just give him that. And there's not even like a vegetable on the side and that's it. And it's just awful. I'm just an awful mom. I can't, like, that's what my kids are eating. And before my divorce, I used to take my kids places. We were out a lot in the sun and I would take them to museums and parks and, you know, experiencing nature. And now I'm so freaking depressed that I just stick them in front of the TV, sometimes for hours while I hide from them and cry in a corner because I don't want them to see me crying all the time. So they're just watching TV all day and not even leaving the apartment some days at all. And, you know, their friends have like these beautiful rooms and that are, you know, decorated and fun and themed. And my kids literally share a room with me and they're watching their mom sleep on the floor because I can't even afford a bed right now. They had a bunk bed that my friend gifted them, but the room is so small that there's nothing. There's no like fun toys in there and fun furniture. And anyway, I went on and on and on and on with these examples. And when I was done, I was fully expecting my therapist to be like, all right, yeah.
You're terrible.
Yeah,
You better get it together, girl.
Exactly. Things have gone downhill and your kids deserve better than you. Like literally, I'm expecting him to say this.
Right, sure.
And instead, I will never forget, his chair was one of those chairs on wheels, you know, and he scooted closer to me and he looked at me so intensely. And I'm still fully expecting a lecture. Because you know what? I don't know if you feel this way ever, Kat. Sometimes even as adults, when we don't feel like we're good enough, we revert back to that little girl who's in trouble. Like I feel that a lot.
Sure.
I was in trouble a lot as a kid, so maybe that's why. But like,
Right.
but I'm literally sitting there waiting for him to like lecture me because I'm in trouble. And instead, with this intense look, he goes, "Wow, Christina, you are an amazing mom." I know I'm gonna cry right now. He goes, "You are going through the hardest time in your life." And I'm sure that with how depressed you feel, it is so hard to even get out of bed in the morning. But man, you get up every morning for those kids and you drive to the store, even though you don't want to leave the house, and you buy that mac and cheese and you boil the water and you cook it. And I bet when you mix it all up before you serve it, I bet you even taste a little bite just to see that it's not too hot so they don't burn their little tongues. Like, how did he know that? Of course I was doing that. And he said, and you don't want them to carry the stress you're carrying. You don't want them to see you crying all the time. So instead, you put them in front of the TV to watch cartoons for hours? How thoughtful is that of you to make sure that they're laughing and having fun despite the pain that you are feeling? And Christina, how many kids would just absolutely love to have a sleepover with their mom, to have their mom sleeping next to their bed every single night? He took every single awful thing that I thought and said about myself, and he showed me the other side. And I guess Mary was her name, right? That called in.
Mary.
I know it's much harder to do that for ourselves than have somebody do that. That was such a gift that I got from that therapist. But every time you start beating yourself up, and maybe don't even just think it, maybe even write it down. Write down the thought and then go, what would Christina's old therapist say now? Because here's the thing, so often we think that we suck when really it's our perception of ourselves that sucks. We think we're lacking when really our perception is lacking, right?
Yes.
I was not a bad mom. I was a really great mom. And in fact, now, 20 years later, when I look back, all the things that I like, those things and other things that I felt shame about and felt like I was a loser. I look back on those and I'm so impressed with that girl. I was being interviewed on a podcast a few months ago and someone was talking about my career and they were asking, what's your proudest moment? And they thought I was going to say, you know, my book or my tour or something like that. And I said, you know what? When I think about when I was the most proud of myself was I was that single mom struggling.
Wow.
And I still feel that.
Yeah.
I look at my life now. That was my most proudest moment.
Wow.
So, Mary, you are doing so much better than you realize. You are so much stronger than you realize. And I am convinced that someday you're going to look back and you're going to be so freaking proud of yourself. And also because we don't sugarcoat things on this podcast, it's going to be hard. You're going to have a lot of hard days. Healing takes time. Grieving takes time. And for me, divorce felt like a death. I think that's true for a lot of people. When you experience a death of any kind, that's not something that heals overnight. But I am begging you, start with being so good to yourself, so kind to yourself. When the negative voice comes in, just flip it around. Remind yourself that, man, I am doing the best I can, and my best is more than good enough. And I also want to tell you that your children, you know, I worried how my children would look back on that time in their life. And my children don't have negative memories of that time. They really don't. So I am sending you so much love. If you can afford a therapist, I highly recommend one. You need someone to help you navigate this. If you cannot, call local universities, see if there are students who aren't licensed yet who can see you for dirt cheap, but don't try to do this alone. I also know that there are online, and unfortunately, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but if you search, there are online support groups for people who are just newly going through divorce, and I highly recommend doing that so that you don't feel alone and you don't feel isolated. And one more tip, this is a really long answer, but I think it's important. One more tip. I made the mistake of letting way too many other people who had opinions about my divorce and how I was parenting at the time and how I was navigating my grief. I allowed their judgment to become my identity. I allowed it to make me feel like crap. And please don't make the same mistake. None of them are living your life. None of them know what's going on in your heart and your head and your home and those alone moments when you're in bed at night and you can't fall asleep. None of them know what it's like to be you. They don't get a say. They don't get a say. So don't give them that power. All right. We might need to turn this into 2 episodes because we are 24 minutes in and I haven't said
There's more
most
to say.
of what I
There's
wanted to say.
lots to say.
So should we make this episode about divorce and post-divorce healing and then do another one on co-parenting?
Sure.
I think we're going to do that. I'm making an executive decision in the middle of this
Right now.
podcast because it's just too big of a theme and topic.
It is.
Yeah. Okay. So let's stick with this theme of, healing after divorce.
Yes.
Kat,
Yes.
what do you have anything to contribute? You have not.
I have never been divorced.
yeah.
I've been through death when people
Yeah.
have died, and
Yeah.
it truly takes
The healing takes yeah.
such a long time. And
Yeah.
I like how you said that it's divorce is like a death.
Yeah. Because nobody, and this is what, like, people who judge people who are getting divorced, whatever, listen, nobody gets married thinking someday I'm going to get divorced.
Right.
And I think probably there's a very, very, very small percentage of people, and they're probably drunk in Vegas when they're getting married, who are thinking, well, if it doesn't work out,
Right, sure.
it's all right. We'll just get divorced. But let's just be honest. Most people go into it with the best
Yes.
expectations, intentions.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that so many people get judged of like, well, this is one thing I was told a lot. Well, did you work at it? Yeah,
Right.
we did.
Yes.
We went to, we 2 different therapists we went
Yes.
to. And actually for me, what therapy did when I was, in my first marriage, when we went to marital counseling, what therapy actually did is show me that this was not going to get fixed.
Right.
So sometimes when people think you go to therapy and it fixes things, sometimes when it's couples therapy, sometimes it actually opens your eyes to, oh, this is actually not going to be able to be fixed.
And I know you, and you're a very big advocate for marriage.
Yeah.
And so I know you didn't leave it lightly or flippantly or anything like that.
Right. And I feel for people who are getting judged for that.
Right.
Do you remember I had, well, more than once, but we actually just made a video about it and I haven't posted it yet. Maybe by the time this episode goes live, I will have posted it. There was a lady, and again, she was not the first one, who on my Facebook page would go and say, divorce is a sin.
Oh.
And you need to stop talking about your, basically she was annoyed that I was talking about how much I love my husband because he's my second husband.
Oh dear, yes.
Right. And that because divorce is a sin and you never should have gotten remarried. And, and so we made a video where I was reacting to her comments and I was like, okay, even if you feel that, right. And you strongly obviously have opinions about my life.
Right.
What would you like me to do now?
Right.
Because what are my options? So divorce the second. So now I'm going to have 2 divorces?
Right.
Is that what I'm supposed to, what is the point? And what irritated me about that woman, it wasn't like, she didn't irritate me because she's bugging me personally, because I'm over. Right. I have been divorced for a really long time. Really, anybody can judge me for getting divorced. I really don't care anymore. What bothered me is she is commenting this on a post where, on Facebook, I have over 3.2 million people following me. How many of those people are divorced? How many of those people are seeing her comment? How many of those people are maybe in an unhealthy marriage, maybe even dangerous marriage, where they are debating leaving and they're reading this comment and they're either feeling judged for the decision they made or feeling like I can't make the decision I thought I needed to make. Mind your own freaking business, people. Right. But there's so much judgment around divorce. And one of the things that I've said before when I've been judged for divorce, the divorce did not break my family. Divorce healed my family. Am I telling everybody out there to just, hey, take marriage lightly and go get divorced? No. Obviously not.
Right.
But there are certain situations where divorce is healthier for your family. And for anybody who needs to hear this, who is divorced right now with little kids and you're worried about, ruining your kids, or are your kids going to be mad at you because you left? Because I'm the one that made the decision to leave.
Right.
I want to tell you this. If you handle it well, especially with their other parent, and we'll get into, again, like I said, we'll get into it in another episode, but I'll just touch on this right now. No bashing the other parent to the kids. The formula I came up with, and again, we'll go more into detail in another episode, was kids first, ego last.
Right.
When I felt like, my kids need to know their dad, they would be mad at me about something because their dad let them do it and I didn't or something. And so I wanted to gain points with them and I didn't want, and so I wanted to bash them or whatever. Or even if it wasn't in front of them, even if it was, I'm going to send them that really mean text.
Right.
The formula I came up with was kids first, ego last. Is me saying something negative to them about their dad good for them? Is it going to benefit them? No. Now, granted, if he was somebody who was beating them and, they couldn't see him for that reason, then obviously I need to communicate that in a way, like he is dangerous. But there's so many times where there's no need to bash another parent, and parents do it because they're putting their ego first, right? And they want, I need my kids to know that I'm the good one. I'm right. Right. Or even if my kid said, we're not going to be privy to a conversation I was having with him, the way I was going to word that text to him that they were never going to see. If I went kids first, ego last, is this going to be helpful? It's just going to create more drama with him. They're going to sense it when we're in the same room. They're going to feel that tension. Can I word this differently? Can I communicate what I need to communicate to him without calling him a name or putting him down or, and there's always a way to communicate in a respectful way. There just always is. And so kids first, ego last became my formula. So what I'm trying to say is if you handle the divorce in a way that is the healthiest possible for your kids. This also includes, and again, we'll touch on it later, not bringing in a bunch of different people all the time and they're bonding with this guy and that guy and, or, you know, this woman and that woman, and then ripping them out of that. Like, that's not healthy for them, right? Again, we'll get into more details about dating post-divorce in another episode. But if you handle it in the healthiest way possible, your kids will be okay.
Right.
Now that both of my oldest kids are adults, I have flat out asked them, how do you feel about the fact that your dad and I got divorced when you were little? And from both of them, I got the answer of, I can't imagine you guys being married. Like, just your personality. Like, I don't even know how you were married. And they don't feel resentment towards me. They don't feel resentment towards him. And the other thing I'm going to tell you is, to this day, they are 21 and 20, almost 23. They don't know why, the details of why I left.
Oh, you haven't even told them.
Not the details. You know why? Because kids first, ego last.
Yeah.
How is it going to benefit them? I think that's a good question for us parents to ask in anything. Is this information beneficial? Right? So, not to go on a tangent, but when kids ask us about, like, you know, the uncomfortable subjects, I always think that there's a way to be honest with kids in an age-appropriate way. But I also think that sometimes we add information that's not actually beneficial to the children, right? So I really sat with it and thought, does it benefit them in any way? Do they gain something from this information? And so far, no. Will that change? Maybe. Maybe someday I will see certain things in, you know, my son. I don't know, I'm making this up right now, where I'm like, oh, I can see some behaviors that are similar to his dad's. And maybe there will be a way to communicate, hey, this is one of the reasons I needed to leave. And this is something you need to really be aware of, and how you're treating your significant other. I'm just making this up.
Yeah,
like, but my point is, I'm giving myself permission that can change, whether it's beneficial. But if it's not, why do it? It would only, you know why? The only reason to do it would be my ego. To go, let me tell you what your dad, you know, what he was. That's completely unnecessary.
Right. And you know what I think is interesting, having known you, and I don't know if your kids still think this, but for a really long time, they thought you and your ex-husband were like besties. Like really good friends.
Well, when they were when they thought we were friends, when my daughter was about 6 or 7, I don't remember, she had a friend over, and they were on a play date, and I walked by the room and I overheard my daughter say to her friend, yeah, my mom and dad are best friends. And so later I said, I heard you say that to Sienna, and do you really, think that? And she goes, oh yeah, because I see the way you guys talk to each other, and he comes over. Again, we'll get into it more later, but my kids never felt that I hated their dad. Did I feel hatred towards him at times? Of course I did. Did he feel hatred towards me? Of course he did. We're divorced for a reason. Hello. But you got to remember, this is your kid's parent.
Right. And
unfortunately, kids see themselves in the parent, right?
Sure.
It's like the whole video we made where we talked about, basically I was portraying this mom who was saying negative things to herself. And we had this little girl, because my daughter was too old. We had this little girl play my daughter. And we're just going through our day, and I'm saying, oh, I'm so fat. By the way, I don't actually talk this way in front of my kids, and I never have, but we're trying to make a point. I'm so fat. And then she asked me something, I'm like, oh, I forgot to buy it. Oh, I'm an idiot. And then I see the mess in my house, and I go, oh, I'm such a slob. And then it cuts to the little girl, and she's sitting in front of the mirror, looking at herself, playing with her little puppy or whatever. And she's going, I'm fat. I'm an idiot. I'm a slob. Okay. Our kids literally sort of form their identity watching how we're living.
Right.
So if that's true, and we know that's true, then if we are constantly bashing, or maybe we're not even saying the words, but we're rolling our eyes every time our ex gets brought up or whatever. The kids are not stupid, right?
Right.
And they start seeing that other parent as a loser, as, evil, as whatever. They are going to start internalizing that. So you're not doing your kids a favor, right? You're doing your kids a favor by lifting that person up. And honestly, as much as like I felt such anger, and I mean, I had a hard time for a while even being in the same room with him.
Right.
I had to realize the best thing I can do is want the best for him. I need to root for this man because this is the father of my children. I need to wish him the best and root for his growth because my kids benefit if their dad is doing well.
Yes.
My kids benefit if their dad is happy, if he's successful, if he, finds a healthy relationship. My kids benefit from that. So just look at it that way. Kids first, ego last.
Yes.
If that's true, you are rooting for your ex. Again, there are a lot of exceptions here if your ex is dangerous.
Right, of course.
So, I don't want to have to say that after every sentence, but obviously.
So I have a question. I mean, you chose to leave your marriage, but what about people who didn't choose?
Yeah.
And they truly love their ex-husband or thought they had a good marriage and then they chose to leave. What do you say to them?
It's awful. Like I have friends who have gone through this where they're blindsided by their spouse cheating, completely blindsided. And then even after finding out the cheating was happening, wanted to make it work, wanted to stay. I'll figure out a way to get over this. I'll forgive you all. And then be left. Gosh, like that's betrayal upon betrayal upon betrayal, right? Or, maybe there wasn't cheating, but just left for whatever reason. And, like you said, they still have the feelings. They're still in love. Here's the thing. We can only control what's within our control, right? And that sucks. That sort of acceptance of this is over and I don't want it to be over and I still have feelings and I'm still, that sucks.
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of those situations, especially when there's cheating, man, that's really hard to not bash your ex and not, but again, is it just get back to that question. Is this benefiting my children?
Right.
Is this benefiting my children?
And I would submit that, your worth is not tied to what your ex-husband did or said or does to you. And if he chose someone else, your worth is way above, that it has nothing to do with it.
It says a lot about him and it says nothing new about you. There's no new information we're learning about you because you were cheated on. We're learning a lot of new information about him.
Yes.
And that's really important because anybody who's ever been cheated on, even if it's like a boyfriend in high school, immediately it's like, why am I not good enough? Why am I not pretty enough? Am I not skinny enough? Am I this? Is my personality annoying? We make it about us. Can you imagine if everybody who was cheated on was immediately, and the only thoughts were, what's wrong with him? Why is he not good enough?
Absolutely.
Why is his character so messed up?
Yep.
But instead we make it about us. So, there's obviously, gosh, I feel for, and especially like, I can think of a few specific people I know that really were blindsided.
And we do have one more question about
hold on. I want to
say one more thing.
Yeah, yes. I want to say one more thing on this. I also think it's really easy in that situation, even if you're not doing the whole, why am I not pretty enough, skinny enough, all that stuff, right? To go, wow, I chose so badly. I didn't see this coming. Right. I feel like a fool.
Right.
It's very easy to feel that too. And again, it's not about you. We're not learning new information about you. Now, granted, when you're dating, don't ignore the flags.
Sure.
If he's, flirting or whatever, like, don't ignore red flags. If he's texting other girls, whatever it is when you're dating. And please, don't do the whole, well, it'll be different when we're married.
Right.
No, it won't. But first of all, it's not, just stop blaming yourself. And even if, let's say, you ignored the red flags and you're like, no. He actually cheated on me when we were dating and I forgave him and took it back. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. My gosh, I don't know a single human being who hasn't made some, bad decisions.
Or misjudged something.
Yes. I don't even know a single person who's always, paid attention to every red flag.
Right.
We're all growing and learning and, so don't blame yourself. Forgive yourself.
Yes.
We should all be doing that daily because we all are so freaking flawed.
Right.
Okay, we do have another question. Go ahead.
Okay, here we go.
My question is, how do you find yourself after divorce? I have been divorced almost 5 years, and I still am feeling, I guess, low, run down. I also have a son that is neurodivergent as well. And it's me taking my son to appointments, me following up with doctor visits, and his father has moved on, has a girlfriend, and they're settling in nicely, but I'm still stuck with no support from him to raise my son. So my question is, how do I find myself amongst all this chaos and find the new me? So I'm struggling to find myself. Thank you.
Oh, geez. There's a lot of layers here too. So, there's so much I want to say. First of all, you mentioned 5 years, and just the way you said it makes me feel like you're like, it's been 5 years. I should be better now. Everybody's timeline is different. Don't set a timeline on like, I have to. It's same with grief, right? We're talking about death. There's no timeline.
Right. There's
no like, it's been this long. TikTok, let's go.
Me?
Yeah. Second of all, you have a lot going on. You have a lot, like you mentioned, your son, and you're running around and trying to, support him in every way you can. That's a lot of stress, right? And then on top of that, I'm sure there's some extra pain layers there of, well, my ex moved on and my ex seems to be doing great. And here I am stuck. Like there's so many layers to this. And so many times we feel like I've lost myself. I'm lost. I would say maybe reword it. You're not lost. You're redefined, right? You didn't lose yourself. We're going to redefine who you are now in this life, in these circumstances. And I know that seems like a tiny little change, but it takes us from the negative of I'm lost, which feels very scary, to I'm redefined. This is empowering. What is my new life going to look like? What is this new chapter going to look like? And one of the things that, I would really encourage you, especially since you're so busy with your son, to really take time out for yourself and not feel guilty. And I don't know what that looks like for you, because I know that's easy to say, but hard to do. I don't know if you have family members that can help you with your son so you can just take off with a girlfriend for a weekend, or even, when he's in school, do something for yourself. I don't know what your schedule looks like, but I would say if you can prioritize yourself, and also never, ever, ever feel guilty for prioritizing yourself, because as moms especially, we tend to feel guilty. Please don't. You're doing your kid a favor when you spoil the crap out of his mother. And I'm going to share a story. I'm going to try to be quick about it because it's kind of a long story, but it's really important when you're in this spot and everything feels dark to really allow our brains to focus on everything we don't have and everything we can't do and everything we're lacking. And we're just looking at that list. And here's the truth. That list of everything you can't do and don't have will always be longer, always, for all of us, than the list of things we do have and can do. It will always be longer. And that's why it's so easy for our brains to just go there. I want to give you a challenge to focus on what you have and can do, because that's where your power lies. So I don't know if you've heard me share this before, but when I was in that really dark spot, and I felt like I was consumed with self-pity. I literally was consumed with how much my life sucks. That's all I thought about all days. My life sucks. Everything's hard. My kids deserve better than me. I'm not a good mom. I'm financially struggling. Everything is awful. And one night I couldn't sleep, and I was like, you know what? I got to figure out a way to get out of this me state. It's like I'm obsessed with me. And I thought, I know, I'll volunteer. And so I called up a bunch of places offering to volunteer. I got rejected by every single place because at the time I had a 2 and a 3-year-old, and I couldn't afford a babysitter. I have to bring them with me. No hospital wants a 2 and a 3-year-old volunteering. They're going to burn the place down. Let's be honest. Toddlers are crazy. And so I'm so glad that happened. I'm so glad I got rejected, because what that forced me to do, thankfully, my feisty side sort of kicked in, and it forced me to go, okay, fine. Nobody will have me. I'll figure it out on my own. What can I do on my own? How can I, what do I have something I can do? Like in all of this negativity I feel about myself is there one thing I'm confident in. And the only thing I could think of is I know I can cook a great meal. Like I said earlier, I loved cooking always. I can cook a great meal on the tiniest budget. And so without even having a plan or thinking it through, I sent an email to all of my friends in the area. And I said, Wednesday night, I'm going to feed whoever you want to bring. So if you know someone who is struggling financially, maybe, it's a college kid who's just a cafeteria food. Maybe it's an elderly person who's just lonely. I don't care what the need is, as long as you know them personally, because the safety of my kids,
right?
You can bring them to my little apartment. Got my roommate's permission after I sent the email because I do things backwards. And I remember that Wednesday I went to the 99-cent store and I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a recipe I was going to follow. I was like, what's the cheapest stuff I can pick up off those shelves? Got some pasta, got some canned stuff, made bread from, scratch because that's literally pennies to make. And long story short, that Wednesday I fed, I think it was around 30 people.
Wow.
It was crazy. We actually ran out of food, but it didn't matter. Like it just became like a fun gathering. I ended up having to like cook extra stuff that I found around my apartment. And I had this life-changing moment I'll never forget. By the way, these people are like during this whole evening are coming up to me and thanking me. I'm feeling like a loser has nothing to offer. And these people who have more money, looks like, by the way they were dressed, who seem to be doing well, they seem happy, are coming up to me and going, oh, thank you so much. I needed this evening. I'm new to town. I just got a job here and we didn't know anyone. And we just met some really cool people. Thank you. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had something to contribute. And the moment I will never forget is when the last person left and I closed the apartment door and my kids were already in bed at that time. My roommate was not home and I was all by myself in this little apartment. And I just did that thing where like, I was leaning against my back was against a wall and I just slid down into like this fetal position and I just bawled my freaking eyes out. But it wasn't the kind of crying I'd been doing for months prior. It was like, my life sucks and everything sucks and I'm a loser. I was like, oh my gosh, I did that. Like even when I felt like I had nothing to offer, I have something to offer. I'm not worthless. And that was the lesson. And I still use the lesson to this day when I start feeling overwhelmed of all the things I don't have and all the things I can't do. What is something I can do? So I would encourage you, if you are trying to, we're not going to say find yourself because you're lost. We're going to say redefine yourself. I want you to find something you can do, something you feel really good about. And by the way, it's going to be really easy when that thought comes. When you think of that first thing, I guarantee you, because you're human, the first thing you're going to go is, well, that's not important enough. That's not good enough. That's what I thought when I thought of cooking. I was like, everybody knows how to cook at least a little. That doesn't make me special. What is that going to do? And are people going to want to come to my crummy little apartment? And I'm not even going to be able to make a nice meal because I don't have enough money. You're going to give all these thoughts in your head that are going to try to talk you out of why your idea is not good enough. You got to ignore those. You got to shut that down. And I'm telling you, if you focus on the short list, what can I do in this moment? What do I have in this moment? What can I contribute in this moment? It will change your life. In fact, that's what I used when I didn't know how to support my son through his mental health struggles. When I was like, I don't know how to fix this. And I don't know how to get him to stop doing drugs. And I don't know how to heal his depression. I don't know. Okay, stop, Christina. What can you do right now? Not tomorrow. What can you do right now? And sometimes it was as simple as writing him a Post-it note, telling him I love him. I mean, it can, in the moment, feeling like that's stupid. That's not going to fix anything. But it meant something to him. And guess what? He still has that Post-it. So focus on you. Focus on your own healing. And focus on your strengths. And I know this may sound trivial and simple, but that's where your power and your healing lies. Yeah. And I'm sending you so much love. This went on forever.
I know. We still have another one to do.
I know. But I love you all. And if you're going through divorce, if you're going through a hard time, just please know you're not alone. It gets better. I wrote in my first book how I even contemplated taking my life after the divorce. I really like my life. I really like myself. I really like my family. Awesome. Yes. And things are good. And I just want to give you that hope. Life will surprise you in the worst ways, but life can also surprise you in the best ways. Please do not give up. Do not give up. Whew. Okay. If you need daily support, immediate, I have a question, I don't know how to handle something, or just encouragement, you can check out my app, Hope and Humor Daily. If you want to call with a completely different question or a question on this topic, whatever question, 855-912-4175. And if you're enjoying this podcast, it's still a new podcast. We're still trying to get the word out. It always helps to rate it, review it. So if you have the time, take the time to do it, and we would really appreciate it. And we love you all. Bye.